What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we got the Charger sitting on the driveway. We got the garage empty because we're going to be working on the Starlight headliner for the Dodge Charger and get this thing installed today. This is my first time doing anything like this, so I'm still not sure how to do it, but I watched some YouTube videos, so I think I have a pretty good idea of what I need to do. I also got some wire taps so I can plug it into the fuse box, so that way I'm not routing wires into random places and connecting it to the battery directly. So these are the actual fiber optics themselves. I went with a very low count of fiber optics because I really don't like when it's very jumbled up and way too prominent in the actual car itself. So I went with 300, 295 to be exact, and I think I like less compared to having way too many. So that's why I went with 295. You could go 500, 600, even 1,000 if you wanted to, just really up to preference. So this right here is a piece that connects into the box. And then we also have, these are the fuse taps that I talked about. I got these off Amazon and they come in various sizes. So whatever fuse size you need to tap into, you have that. And then you have the box itself. This is the kind of power box or projector box. This is what pushes the light into the actual fiber optics themselves. Then you got a wall power supply, a car power supply. I think I'm gonna be splicing into the wall one right here just because I'm never going to use this. And then you have the remote itself, so this is what you can control it with. The good thing about this setup is that you can actually even download the app, and that has more features on it, so you can control it straight from your app, connects via Bluetooth, so that's clutch. And now I think we got to get into the most difficult part of the entire process, and that's getting the actual headliner out of the car. So let's jump into that real quick. I'm not going to dive too deep into how to get the headliner out because there's a bunch of videos on YouTube that explain how to do it, and they go into pretty good detail around what needs to come out and what needs to come off. But this is the first thing that needs to come off, one, and then you have these two sun visors that need to come off. From there you can start working on the handles, both in the front and the rear. The process is pretty much the same for both of them. So once you get those off, you should be able to drop the entire headliner. And then for the actual pillars themselves, you just kind of pull them back a little bit and you should be able to get access to getting the headliner out from behind it. 15 minutes later, I got a quarter of the car done, as you can see right here. So this piece, you just kind of put your hand in the back right here, grab it and just yank. There's metal clips that insert right here, right here, right here, and right here. Unplug this. This entire thing should pop out. This is the little light, whatever this console is. From here, there's a screw in here, T20. There's also a screw right here, T20, another T20, and then over here you have some T30s. So you just take those out. They're sitting behind this little plastic cover. Once you pull this back, there's gonna be a plastic cover. You pull that off and this entire thing should pop out just like that. And what I'm doing is I'm just keeping the screws from where I got them. So you got the plastic cover, screws in there, and then the screws in here as well. So I know this handle and these screws go right here. So now for this is the only tricky part. This wire is glued somewhere right here. I think there's a connector that you also need to unclip. So I'm just gonna put my hand back here and try to rip that glue off, pull the connector out this direction, unplug it, so then I can take this entire piece off. Never mind, my plan didn't work. I couldn't get it unglued from right here. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is loosen up the entire headliner, bring that down, and once it's down, I can just pop my hand back here and unclip it. It's gonna be the exact same process right here. And then on the rear, you just have those handles, which are gonna be easy. And then you just pop everything back off by hand. Just put your hand in there, grab, pull down, and it should pop out. And then it's just a matter of getting the entire headliner out the car. Should have mentioned this earlier, but all you're really gonna need is a flathead screwdriver to pry the plastic pieces open, a T20, and then preferably if you have the entire T kit, I think you're gonna need a T30 as well, or you will need a T30 for the handles up here. But yeah, that's all you need, and then you just need your grubby little hands to make sure you can grab it and pull. So I'm sitting in the rear of the car, and luckily I got everything else loosened up. So I got the front, I just have those wires, but we're gonna do that at the end. Got these off, got this side off as well. And for the entire rear, it's just a matter of putting your hand in here, grabbing it, pulling it down. I would recommend starting right here in the center, behind or underneath the brake light. But for this wire and on this side, I was pushing against that gray piece right there. Not sure how well you guys can see it. This gray one right here, thinking that was the lock mechanism for the clip, but it's actually this tiny white one right underneath my finger, right where I'm pointing. So that's where you actually need to unclip to get this wire off. I was very close to ripping it, but luckily I noticed. Don't be like me and just keep yanking on it and potentially rip that wire. But yeah, now that's off, it's just a matter of getting the entire thing pulled down and getting it out the car, which is not too hard. I think I've been in here for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and overall pretty easy. So like I was talking about before, the sun visor is connected to this little connector right here, which is on top. So that is right here. I just put my screwdriver in there, yanked that out, and it was glued. It's still glued down, so I just left it as it was. I didn't pull too hard, so I just came up from the top side, unplugged that, and then you actually got to follow this wire down to this connector, and you just press down on this red button like that. You pull, and this will actually release the entire headliner, or all the wiring on your headliner from the rest of the car's wiring. So now we can actually take this entire headliner out. It's loosened up 100% from the inside of the car. Before we pull out the entire headliner, I did want to show you guys what I picked up from Harbor Freight, because this is something you're going to need to finish this project. One is super glue, or any type of glue. You could use hot glue if you wanted. I just think this is a lot easier, less mess than hot glue. So I picked this up, and then also grabbed some flush cut pliers. So this way you can get right up to the headliner, snip the fiber optics so it's smooth against the headliner, and you don't have to worry about feeling anything when you rub your hand against it. So I think this is a must-have. You can do other ways, you can use other pliers, but I think this just makes it 10 times easier and a little bit higher quality. So luckily we didn't put any major creases. I think there was one right around here, but you can't really tell on camera, and then we creased it a little bit right here as well, but again, you can't really tell. And we got the entire thing out. So now it's a matter of flipping it over, removing all this stuff, and starting on the actual Starlights. So this is gonna have to come off. So I got all the white foam that was up here cleared off, and I found the center of the headliner. I'm not going for the exact center of the actual headliner. I'm kind of looking at it from the center of the car. So this is where that center pillar is between the front seat and the back seat. So I'm going based off that right there. Got my 4 quadrants. Not sure how well you can see my Sharpie mark, but yeah, got my 4 quadrants. Now we should have about 72 Starlights per quadrant. So that way we're all kind of equal, and that should equal up to 295. We'll have one less and one more in one of these, but that shouldn't matter too much. Now I think it's just a matter of, do I want to mark where the placement of each one is, or just start winging it and poking the holes and pushing the Starlight through? But I guess we'll see. I think I'm gonna start marking it through. I did loosen up these wires so that way I can move them side to side, put the Starlight in and put the wire back down. Same for this one. I didn't want to move the overall placement because it might not be long enough for me to move this entire wire back here, which would be the ideal situation. But yeah, overall I don't think we have enough space for that, so I'm gonna leave it as it is and then try to just work around all of these wires just by moving it back and forth. So while they're figuring out the wiring, we're having some trouble with that, getting the right fuse. We're trying to use this one, which is for the cigarette lighter, but for some reason it wasn't working, so we're trying to troubleshoot why it isn't working. But in the meantime, we've got all our holes marked out. There's about 75 to 70 per square, so total almost 300, and we got a little heater running to warm ourselves up. But once we figure out this wiring, we'll go ahead and start doing the actual poking and sticking the fiber optics through, and then I don't think that will take long. Right now it's just the wiring that's kind of giving us a little bit of trouble, but hopefully in the next 15 minutes we can figure out what was wrong, why it wasn't working, and so on. We ended up figuring out which fuse we were going to use. We ended up with number 47, which is the daytime running lights. So now when the car turns on, these turn on. When the car turns off, these turn off. And this is where we got the actual box mounted. I just hot glued it in place so that it doesn't move, and we're working from this side all the way down to this side. Once we get that all situated, we'll plug it in, run the power wire, down here, down the pillar, into the trunk, and connected to the fuse box. So that's the game plan. It is gonna take us a few hours, or hopefully an hour, to get everything poked and through, but I'll pick up the camera again once we're complete. So this is the bottom so far. We got 2 quadrants done, so 150 or about 150. I probably put in a few extra or a few less, but now we're starting on the back side. We're gonna finish out the entire thing first and then super glue everything. But at this rate, it's been like an hour, so probably another hour to finish up, and then hopefully we can install it back in the car tomorrow because it is dark and it's freezing cold outside. So I'll pick up the camera tomorrow around like sunset time. And about 2.5, 3 hours later, I finally got it done. Unfortunately, my cousins had to leave, so I had to finish it on my own. My wife helped me a little bit, but I'm glad we started on this side and then worked our way down. It just made everything a little bit more organized and clean looking on that end. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner than right here. It was just that there was a lot of jumbled up mess. But once we started getting down here, it became a lot easier to kind of manage all the clutter and whatnot. But we got everything going up till about the end curve right here, and then also we have a few outliers that go beyond this curve right here just to make it look a little bit more star-like. But overall, I'm happy with the outcome so far. We can't plug it in, unfortunately, because I cut up all the power wires just to make sure that it was long enough to get from there all the way to the battery, which is in the rear of the car. So I'm just gonna have to wing it. Hopefully it looks good once we get it up in the car. But now the next step is taking the glue, wherever that is, taking the glue, gluing everything down just so it doesn't move, and then from there going to the bottom side and cutting all of this jumbled up mess. So let's get to it. I was wondering why I had so many extra wires. I think I had 17 extra, and now that I'm going in and looking at every single wire and gluing it down, I noticed how many holes I missed. There's like a gap right there that I missed. There's one hole right here that I missed. So once we get this up and there's some big gaps, definitely my fault. Yeah, I'm stupid for that one. Today's been a long day. I really didn't think it would take this long, but we're in like hour 8, 9 now. So just finished cutting everything from the bottom, so everything has about a foot, about 12 inches extra leeway down there, and we got everything else glued in, some super glue. Now we're just gonna let this sit. It does take about 30 to 60 minutes to fully set, so it is around 11 tonight. So I think we're just gonna have to pick up the camera again tomorrow, and closer to sunset time, hopefully. That way you guys can actually see how it looks inside the car. And I think getting it back in the car shouldn't be too bad. I think just routing the wire from the actual box itself all the way down across and into the trunk is gonna be the most difficult part. But I don't think reinstalling it should take more than about an hour or so. So I'll pick up the camera again tomorrow once we have it back installed and show you guys how it looks. So it's the next day now. I told you guys I was gonna pick up the camera later on in the day, but we just fished the wiring that we did all the way through. Unfortunately, I had to pull everything out of my trunk. We put the negative on the negative terminal, and then we got the fuse in number 47. We fished it through up here. We found a hole, and then we fished it through that little gap right there. I'm not sure how well you guys can see, but this is the rear pillar, and then that brings it all the way to the front. So now, since we have it on fuse 47, if I click accessory mode on, everything turns on, which is exactly what I wanted. And if I turn it off, everything turns off. So it's clutch. You can even turn it on You can turn it on and off manually with the remote, but this way, when the car turns off, it turns off. When the car turns on, it turns on, which is ideal. So now it's just a matter of putting everything together, cutting off the excess, and that's it. But I'll pick up the camera in a few. We made some good progress in the last, 30 minutes. We got the headliner in. Now it's just a matter of bolting the headliner back down with all the handles and so on. He's struggling over here, trying to get a single bolt in.
Dude, this is so annoying.
It's like we're trying to tighten everything down and all these things are just dangling on our face. You can't even move your head around. My parents watch the channel, but now we just gotta put everything back in. It shouldn't be too difficult. That center console is really easy. We got the rear tail light portion put back in. So now it's just a matter of finishing everything up and putting the car back together. So hopefully in the next 15-20 minutes we should be done. Last piece going on. Mechanic Sahil over here doing all the hard work.
I barely did anything.
No, we did the same amount.
Yeah.
Because I did this top and you did the entire rear. So
Yeah.
it works out. Now we just gotta cut everything and that's what I'm gonna start doing. So one thing about working on cars, nothing ever goes as planned. And for some reason, we took our trunk interior apart so we could get the wiring situated this way. And now the trunk won't close. And we don't know why. So he's gonna get in the trunk so we can find out where it's hitting and why it's not closing, because this is weird.
Alright.
Alright, go ahead. Just keep your flashlight on.
It's pretty cozy.
Alright, let me know.
Hold on.
Is it even hitting here?
Because it hits it, but this doesn't move at all. This piece.
Yeah, but when I put my finger here, it moves.
So that means, okay, go back down.
But you see it, right? Like, it's moving
Yeah, so
right
that
now.
moved. So that means that it's not getting enough reach.
Alright, so apparently it was this piece and the weather stripping that goes right here. So, thank you, Sal. We got this situated.
Bye.
Alright, let's finish up with the rest of the lights.
Oh god.
We got the whole gang in here cutting up the wires. But so far, dude, it looks really good. Like, I only did 300. A lot of people do 500, 700. But we've got this whole center area that still needs to be cut down. But overall, I'm really liking this. And we even got to kind of like the edges of the headliner. So like you got one down here. You got it all the way back here as well. So, I don't know. I think the 300 was the perfect amount for me because I don't like too many. So, I think we're golden. I'll pick up the camera again when we're finally done. But as you guys can see, it came out absolutely amazing. You can even kind of see it from way back here, which is so nice. But right now, it is on in one of the standard modes that it comes with, which is the green and blue fade, I think. You can choose which color you want. I love how white looks with the white car. I think stars are just white in general, so I'm gonna stick with the white most of the time. And as you guys can see, it looks absolutely amazing on camera. And this is just 300. Like I mentioned before, a lot of people run 500, 600, 700, but in my opinion, 300 looks absolutely perfect for me. I didn't want too many where it's just very excessive, so I think this works. And I think a lot of the small details really work out here because this is the last Starlight on this side, but then this sun visor is right here. So when you're looking at it, it looks like it goes underneath the sun visor as well. And I did that on this side, so the sun visor is right there. The few lights go all the way up close to it, and it's just a little added detail to the entire kit. And for 100 bucks, this kit is pretty cheap, so for 100 bucks, it's well worth it. It just takes some time to get it done. If you have any questions around how we did the Starlights in the Dodge Charger specifically, let me know down in the comments or message me on Instagram. I'm always happy to help situate any questions that you guys might have, so you guys can do it at home as well. It honestly wasn't too hard of a process. Taking the interior apart was a lot easier than putting it back together, but overall it wasn't too hard. It was just very time consuming and tedious to do all the little lights and whatnot, so I'm glad I did only 300. But definitely stay tuned for the next video. We finally get to bring home the E30 after 6 months or 7 months of waiting. So we'll bring that home and then we'll start giving that car some love as well. But I appreciate you all watching and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.